The sovereign state of the Bektashi Order is a proposed and very much currently work in progress European microstate that is entirely enclaved and located within Tirana, Albania. A reason that I'm considering them significantly more legitimate than the countless other proposed microstates is, well, unlike most other projects, this one has the backing of the host nation involved, more specifically Albania. This makes it a nation with the smallest land area in the world, with a total land area of just 27 acres or 0.11 kilometers squared, which is even smaller than the Vatican. Why is Albania volunteering their land away for the state? I mean, nations overall, no matter how large or small, tend to not like giving away their land without reason. Well, the answer is, as always, politics, specifically with relationships between Albania and the Muslim nations out to the east, as well as an attempt to promote a much more moderate branch of Islam, to which the order themselves belong to. So it's time to add them into EU4. Now, there are issues encountered. Naturally, I could make a decent chunk of content around the history of the order itself and their role within the Ottoman Empire, but even so, the street, for example, on which the nation itself is located, and I'm going to mispronounce this badly, Dimitar Kamada Street, is named after a person, ironically enough, born in the October of 1821, or 9 months after the conclusion of EU4. I mean, the headquarters themselves were actually only built in 1930, and no Paradox game covers that particular year. But I worked away at adding them into EU4 itself, as hopefully making an engaging experience with a mission tree and campaign goal for you to follow makes up for a lot of liberalizations I had to make regarding the actual history of this proposed nation. And hence, before we do take a look into the nation and get into the game itself, let's just get the usual things out of the way. A like would be appreciated, and a subscription would be amazing. It is not looking good for the race to 25k subs, I have to admit. I am now quite far behind Tajikistan. However, with your help, we can still get a victory. So head on down below and subscribe if you haven't already. Anyway, enough self-shitting, let's get into the game. So here we are, I've loaded just the mod itself, and as you can see I've been practicing a bit. There's the nation flag of it in question. That is the actual flag of the order, so thankfully because they do have a flag, I could just use that. And, well, how big is the province? You could probably not see it already, and that's because even if I zoom into Albania, you probably still can't see it. In fact, if I really zoom into Albania, you might be able to see if you know what you're looking for, but no, it is very small to see. And there we go, hovering over a little bit of it here. Albania does have 3 provinces. It's been not as the microstate itself has been slotted into where it would be on the map itself, into this very little bit of a province here. It is still within the Ragusa trade node and within the Albania state, so nothing of loss there. But let's pop into Albania, because of course, this nation doesn't actually exist, and hence should not really exist in 1444. All they have is an extra province and a core. It's a bit difficult to click on it, but there we go. Once we do, we arrive at the actual street in question. Now, the street is, of course, just one very small street, so to make it a whole province seems a bit unfair, and as you can probably tell by some of the things going on screen right now, there's, well, issues. The order itself, it doesn't really fit into the Shia and Sunni dynamic. In fact, they kind of got bullied by both, but I had to pick a religion for this one, so I went with Shia because it tends to be on the, it tends to be a bit closer to them than the Sunni other option, and I think it works out better for the content and pretty much everything involved to make them Shia here as a branch of. But don't worry, you'll be reforming the faith later. Now, the province itself does still have the same Ottoman cause as does the rest of Albania, so we don't intend to interrupt any other playthroughs for anyone else involved in this nation, if you, for whatever reason, run the mod and don't intend to play them yourself. But they do exist on this province, until 1594 that is, because of course Albania is the primary culture of Albanian. Well, sorry, the Albanian culture is the primary culture of Albania, so they don't retain this core forever. However, that does mean we're able to go ahead and release them as a subject. And there we go, they will be Shia and they will be Albanian. And here we are in the nation itself. So what are we working with? Well, as you may have spotted earlier, we were on 50 autonomy before, now we're knocked down to 0 while that is our capital. That is because we have a couple modifiers. First of all, we are a microstate. This massively increases the construction cost and time of building anything inside this province itself. We also significantly decrease the amount of trade production and goods produced and taxation we're able to generate out of such a small area. The supply limit is greatly reduced for the province in question, and we have significantly less spaces for buildings. We're going to need to dev to 10 to be able to afford any of them, which will be quite a difficult task as our development cost modifiers increase by 200% to account for the lack of space in the area. Furthermore, it is a cheaper province to take by the war score modifiers, and of course can field a much lower garrison. However, the nice thing is about being such a small province is it is significantly cheaper to govern. So that's the microstate itself. These are the modifiers from, well, being a small province. However, we do have the Bektashi Order headquarters. These will provide a little bit of stability for the host nation, but also completely nuke any local missionary strength for everyone trying to convert it. If you don't want to play as this nation, a challenge I guess, is to play any other nation in the area and actually convert this province into your religion. Because once you do, this modifier will also make it absolutely miserable for anyone else trying to convert it as well. It also provides an extra tolerance of heretics and heathens for the host nation, as well as you can see at the bottom of that list, a maximum tolerance of heretics and heathens of +1, increasing your religious unity as well by 10%. However, at the cost of having this order here, the minimum local autonomy is increased by 50%, and it gains some local autonomy ticking over time. But, being that it is an independent order that's basically a microstate, this province does not contribute anything to your national religious unity at all. Its contribution is reduced by 100%. Furthermore, if we are ever in a state, like we would be as Bektashi at the start, when we only have access to this one province, we would be a micronation, and that comes with drawbacks. I couldn't make it trigger initially, but if you are a microstate, you get the following: triggered modifier is a microstate. Don't worry, the moment you capture any other province, this will go away, but it decreases the amount of merchants you have, the amount of diplomats you have, your base manpower from 10,000 to just 1,000, your mercenary maintenance goes up, your advisor pool decreases, your splendor, you don't generate any passively, you get one less general, so instead of having two free leaders, you'll only have one. Your dip relations are reduced from 4 down to 2, because obviously it's a bit harder for you to maintain diplomacy, and your governing capacity, if that ever matters, is also significantly reduced. This is a bit more of a broad modifier that I've made and now have in case I ever do want to add any other micronations, so it's a bit more broad in its coding, but there you go. Another thing I want to also very quickly address is going to be the trade good choice. I looked at the street of which this micronation was going to be proposed on Google Maps and did a bit more research into what would be the production on this street, and the answer honestly is, well, outside of the Bektashi order on the actual street, it also contains a nursery and 3 car repair shops, which aren't exactly trade goods I can put into EU4. Furthermore, considering this is a very newly built street from around the 19th century, before it was just kind of a field. So I went with, you know what, it's going to be a grass field, and it's going to grow grain now. That's all you're getting. Enjoy the local land force from a contribution. You're going to need it. Yeah, you're not getting much else out of this province, let's be honest. So now let's take a look at ideas. You do begin with some morale of armies and some yearly legitimacy decreasing because, of course, you're a microstate. But don't worry, if you manage to finish your ideas, yearly legitimacy will be overcome. The yearly legitimacy, don't worry, also decreases your yearly devotion and your yearly horde unity. The whole set is just not displayed here. And the same for the finisher. If you want to go a republic, you will be able to get some yearly republican tradition and even some extra buffs to it. It's not too major, though. It's quite toned down, if anything. It is just mainly to offset the initial hit from the open. The first idea you pick up is going to increase your base manpower by 5,000 and give you 3 flat force limit forever. It's a small state and it's going to be a small buff. This early on, it should actually make a reasonable difference, and I hope you enjoy it. Now, of course, the other thing with this order is its commitment to a very incredibly moderate branch of Islam, which enforces a lot of religious freedoms. For example, there is no veiling for women within the state that is being proposed, and it doesn't even have restrictions on alcohol, which is pretty unheard of for a Muslim country. However, even though this does decrease your monthly piety by quite a significant amount each month, and this nation, a lot of its, well, unique nature of how I'm designed this country for you to play is going to be very much a built around piety. You want to be going full on the mysticism, get that as low as possible, and spam the core religious followers as much as possible button. That is kind of the point of this nation. Oh, and don't worry, you're not going to be getting 2,186 man, you're going to be getting around 386 once the monthly modifier kicks in. So you do have a month before that becomes an issue. Let's get back to our ideas, we'll get to missions in a second. Anyway, with that, you do pick up an extra 2 dip reputation because of your moderate approach to Islam. You only give the clergy actual citizenship in this nation, so the ULM are quite happy now. They get 20% loyalty equilibrium. Furthermore, I was looking at anything else I could reference with the state, and they do have an archive. Now, some of you may point out that this archive was built in the 19th century, so therefore, how do they have access to it earlier? And the answer is shut up. Either way, it's going to give you access to 10% tech cost reduction, so enjoy that. Now, the other thing with the Bektashi order, why are they relevant enough to warrant an order in Albania? Well, this was the religion and order of choice for the Ottoman Janissaries. So obviously when Ataturk did his big reforms, much like many other Sufi orders, the Bektashis were, to put it mildly, oppressed band. However, being the religion of choice for the many Janissaries, it has a strong military tradition, which you'll be exploring within your mission trees as well. So you also do pick up the Faith of the Janissaries, giving you access to +5 discipline and the ability to recruit Janissaries. Enjoy that. So in terms of actual military buffs, it's not too bad, having +5 discipline and 10 morale of armies. And finally, you are going to be quite benevolent in your rulership, reducing years of separatism by 5, and any vassals you do pick up are going to have their liberty design reduced by 20% as well, once you've established yourself as a functioning nation. Now let's take a look at missions. So there's a mission tree for you to pursue here. There you're going to have quite a harsh beginning, and basically gain a dev point. That's your initial goal, which is going to be quite difficult. I mean, first of all, clicking in your country isn't even that easy. Where is the thing? There you go. Once you do manage to click on your country, as you can see, it's not going to be too cheap to dev it, especially given that you're a vassal nation. So this is going to set you back a significant amount. Another way is, of course, getting anything to do with the states. And by the way, to represent the fact that you're a microstate, I did try and give you 100% estate crown land as a little bit of an extra buff just for starting out. Although I know that this probably won't last. Anyway, I digress. The point is, grow by 1 development. Any way of doing that will fulfill the first mission, and that will be the beginning of your adventure. Because as you do grow by 1 development, you will gain 25 prestige, 50 of each monarch points, and for the next 5 years, you should probably use that for battle, you get the faithful have been rallied, giving you 20% morale of armies, 5 flat force limit, reducing your land maintenance by 25%, reducing your monthly war exhaustion by 0.25, and reducing your reinforcement costs significantly. This is going to be the start of your adventure, but don't worry, if you consider yourself a real enjoyer of EU4 difficulty, you may consider this bonus of Faithful Rallied significantly too strong for the actual challenge you're looking forward to here. And for that, I have a decision in place, the optional difficulty button. What this will do is it will complete the harsh beginning mission without rewards. It does let you get going slightly faster as well if you're being such a massive masochist, but it also, well, gives you a modifier called bragging rights until the end of the game. This means that if you do want to win this scenario, which involves completing all 3 of these missions, and we'll get to them in a bit, if you manage to do so with this optional difficulty button, well, you're going to have plus 1% all power cost the whole time, which isn't that significant. Like 1% all power cost isn't going to change the nation, or frankly, you may even make it too much harder. I just know that if you're that good at EU4, where you're going to be even considering this option, then, well, this is going to annoy you, and that means this job is done. Anyway, you'll be able to get the bragging rights reward if you complete the challenge with it enabled. And if you're thinking, aha, I can just complete the mission and then pop the decision, popping this mission sets a flag which prevents this decision being taken, and in fact removes this decision from the list. So no need to unlist it or whatever. If you don't want to do this, just pop the first mission, this decision will be gone from your site, no need to worry about it there. Anyway, I digress. So there's Harsh Beginnings, you open it and go enjoy your independent early death wars at the start. I'm not going to be going too much into the tree here. There's some usual references for the nation itself. For example, one of the things that they do in that order is they bury all of their leaders on site. So you'll be able to, well, build their burial times, the Daba Daba Tarbis, until the end of the game. So this mission basically requires you to have 200 ducats to afford it, which will give you 50 admin points for doing so, move you 20 towards mysticism, and give you that promise modifier until the end of the game, which for example means that you don't take Stab or some Monarch Death and get some slowly monthly piety going the other way around. You also have missions on the other end, for example, to expand your army and invest into the Janissaries. This is the military branch. Janissary recruitment, for example, giving you a buff to your Janissary regiments. And missions such as Grow Recruitment would involve you building, well, having 5 provinces first of all, with at least 5 manpower and having a barracks and training fields on them, which will give you access to yearly manpower from those provinces in question. But don't worry, I've given you plenty of end of the game buffs for your modifier stack and enjoyment. And let's now go over the 3 main missions that you want to complete to finish this tree. I'm going to make Defend the Realm optional, as Defend the Realm requires you to have 20 provinces, which have ramparts and have any level of fort on them, as well as at least 50% local defensiveness. This mission is optional, not part of the 3 challenge missions, but if you do it, you pick up 500 mil points, as well as a 90% off advisor. Now then, back to the 3 challenge missions. The first one will be Reform the Faith. You'll need to do the previous missions in the tree, as naturally as you assume, and then you're going to need to hold 5 key objectives within Islam, namely Baghdad, Jerusalem, Constantinople, and as well as Medina and Mecca. This will not allow you to reform the faith yet. You'd also need to have your piety at less than 99, so basically at minus 100, as well as having 50 provinces that have at least 20 development, have their culture accepted by the owner, so not your primary culture, that wouldn't count. They need to have separatism lower than 0, unrest lower than 1, and not to be of your religion. Because as you may have noticed, a lot of this build is all about tolerance. And if you're worried about the, well, cultural acceptance part, don't worry, Mosques Welcome All mission gives you 25 max promoted cultures until the end of the game, as well as 500 hit points as your reward. This is because this nation's, of course, playing around acceptance and tolerance for everyone. That's kind of the thing for this nation. So it's going to be one of the missions, and it has quite a nice long list of buffs, giving you tolerance of heretics and heathens, as well as a max tolerance of heretics and heathens of +5, which is definitely something quite snackable, as well as plus 5 dip rep and minus 10 all power cost. Also, be able to promote any extra cultures for free, gain 100% extra monthly reform progress modifier if you haven't finished your reforms at this point, and make all your estates have an extra 20 loyalty. Anyway, this is of course end of the game buff missions. If you do your conquest missions, which is these ones, first of all you need to conquer Albania, then own 20 provinces within the Balkans, then own 20 provinces within, well, Anatolia, you'll be able to move your capital back to the historical capital of Aksarayé. Now, this is the province where the order was initially established before, well, Ataturk put an end to that. So, when you do complete the final missions, which will require you to own it, have it accord, and have 50 development on that province as well as 10 buildings, well, you'll move the capital to them, you'll gain a stability, and get some very, very nice buffs in the province, as well as changing the trade good there to become incense instead of cows. So, congrats, that'll be nice. Previous missions, such as Balkan expansion, also let you gain development in Constantinople, as well as converting the culture and religion in Constantinople to Albanian and Shia. And this mission in question also gives you the core on your ancestral homeland. So when you do expand into Anatolia and burn the Ottoman flag, well, not only will you be gaining 15 development in your future capital as well, you'll also be converting the province into Shia, into Albanian, and creating a level 2 center of trade, because it doesn't actually have any centers of trade in the state at all. So again, that's your military goals. And to help you with that, you have your military branch, which the final mission is going to be relatively straightforward. You need to have every single country in the game have a lower army strength than you. So basically, if any country has an army strength less than 100% compared to you, this mission requirement is fulfilled. So no need to get Milhegemon on anything stupid, just be the strongest big boy around for at least one day, which will give you War as a Science, reducing the military technology cost by 20% until the end of the game. Nothing too major, but quite a nice little buff on the side. So there's the mission tree we've talked over. Again, a lot of creative liberties had to be taken, and I hope you enjoy playing this in whatever format. If you don't want to play as the Bektashi order yourself, feel free to do a campaign as someone like Poland and just see if you can A, get there, and B, manage to stack the 20% missionary strength necessary to convert this province into your religion. Anything but Shia I would also count as a meme completion. If this is something that interests you, feel free to pop over onto my Discord. I'll have that linked in the top pinned comment as well as in my YouTube description as always, where you'll be able to discuss your campaign of, well, this mod, or anything else EU4 related really. Pop over, it's fun. Otherwise, the mod itself will be available on the Steam Workshop for download, as well as, again, linked in the description and the pinned comment. But with that all said, that is all I have time for today. Thank you very much for watching, with a special thank you to all of my YouTube members, especially Ark, Solar, Sir Lemon, W Haste, and Sebastian Haller.